Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Dream Labs with Dr. Contrast Live. I just want to take a quick moment here and just a little bit of an update. Really cool to let you know that last Wednesday we put on a stream on Formula One slot cars. It went very, very well. Some great feedback on that. And the latest, greatest news on that program was the fact that the sketches were sent down to a manufacturer, I think I said last Wednesday, a manufacturer in Germany, or pardon me, in Georgia, and it went pretty well. So we'll keep you posted on some of the things as we develop this theme as we go along here. But today I thought it'd be kind of interesting shift of gears here to kind of go back and look at my portfolio of Corvette work. For those of you who not followed me or not know my background too much, I came out of school at CCS in Detroit, Michigan, and went on to a General Motors design staff where I had a career of 15 years where it was just absolutely amazing kind of talent to people to work with. And I had the privilege of working with Corvette studios several years. Started in Chevrolet, went to Oldsmobile, advanced vehicle systems, a lot of different areas there. But I think the real intrigue for me is the Corvette experience. Very rare indeed, and I'm privileged to be a part of that whole process at design staff. Still have a lot of friends back there, still work back and forth with some of the people there at design staff and advanced vehicle systems. I've got several students who are now members of design staff up there, so pretty nice memories in terms to put it all together. But I thought it'd be a nice little change of pace today to walk you through a bit of my portfolio. This is but a tip of the iceberg as far as sketch work goes with some of the Corvette work that I've done over the years. And so let me start here with this guy. I'm sure you know who this gentleman is. This is Zora Arcus Duntov. Zora came to GM design staff in the early 50s, I think, and I had the privilege of working with him for 5 years on special programs at design staff, one of which we'll show you later is a four-rotor Corvette that went to Paris, but a little bit of a background story on that when we get to it. But this was an interesting individual. He came in the early 50s, and he always had a passion for racing, always had a passion for mid-engine machines and prototype pieces and advanced concept work. But he got a lot of resistance from design staff. When I worked with him, got to find out a lot of his background in terms of what he went through and some of the battles he fought with guys like Mitchell, Ed Cole, and all the management individuals at design staff. But the one thing he did do, he had a skunk works over engineering staff at the Technical Center in Warren, Michigan, and he put together this prototype. This is called the 1957 C Series. It was the first piece he did, and manufactured it, had it crafted at the engineering staff, and then took it out on the racing circuit. And I think management, the upper level management did know the fact that it was being done, but didn't really stop him in terms of pursuing his dream. So he put this piece together, and interesting, very forward. This is the beginning. This is the birth of Corvette as we know it today, back in the early 50s. This is the 1957 vintage machine. It was introduced to the racing circuit across the country and overseas in Europe, and did very, very well. So this is it, 1957. The first four pieces I'll show you. I have my work. Some of my work is displayed at the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. You can see the little label down here at the National Corvette Museum. I sent some of my sketches up to the design staff. They approved it and they put it into the museum. So it's been kind of neat. So I'm going to walk you through some things here. This is the first piece that was done at the museum. This is the Zora Arcus Duntov. We call it the stealth machine. It was secretly done, but at the same time made a real impact on the marketplace. And we began the whole process to develop the C Series as we know it today, Corvette. He was the father of Corvette, no doubt about it. I talked about Mitchell. That's fine, and people of that ilk. But Zora was the guy that had the dream and put it all together, and really interesting stories behind the scenes as he went from one phase of his career to another. So that was the first one he did. And now this is an illustration. This is also done at the Corvette Museum. This is an illustration of the C1 series. Again, a very, very classic piece, very typical fingernail side scoop, very interesting detail work. I think Mitchell, I think it was Bill Mitchell started on Bill Porter, very early design studies on this process, again, back in the late 50s. So once the first generation of Zora stealth machine was introduced to the marketplace. So this is an interesting one. That's down at the museum. Second one is this. This is C3. It was, this is the one that was kind of a trendsetter. And the story behind this one is really interesting because the C3 was prototyped after the Ferrari series, for example. Some of the Dino work and some of the other very elaborate 250 GTs and so forth. And the GTO, that became the theme car for this particular vehicle. And interesting how it all came together, but this again is a piece that's down. Let me move this over a bit so you can see it a little bit. It's a machine. Very popular. I just sold some pieces at the museum and still getting a lot of feedback from people who have purchased my work. So very pleased about that. So This is a C3. Again, part of the genealogy. I just started here today and opening the stream with some of the work that's done at the museum, some of the history of the materials there. And then this next one is a really unique one. So you can separate here. There it is. This one is extremely unique. This was probably the advent of, this is called the four-rotor Corvette. It was designated. Hey, Doug Grid, how are you, man? Good to see you, Chief. How's everything? Everything going well for you? Thank you for joining forces, Doug. Got a lot of need. I've got to call you after we're done here today about some great news on the slot car F1 stuff we're working on. So we're going to go back to this storyline. This is a very interesting thing. Through the genealogy of Corvette, what had taken place, there was always, Zora's dream was always to have a midship Corvette. And as many years as we tried to push it through the system, it was overwhelming to see the kind of resistance we got, because Corvette had a niche. Don't touch it. It's got a very separate family system to it. It's very specific, all-American. True, but it was kind of lagging behind in some of the European manufacturer systems like Ferrari, Maserati, Porsche, etc., that needed to be brought up to speed. So in the mid-70s, I was assigned to XP, Experimental Studios, Advanced Corvette. And interesting story behind this is that Zora kept pushing for a midship engine. And this came about because of his insistence, and I'll give you a real brief history of how this whole process started. This car was built from ground up. All we got from Zora was 4 wheels and a frame, and came from engineering staff. We had 3 months to fabricate exterior, interior, get design approval, manufacturing rights, to ship it to Paris for the Paris Auto Show in late 1970s, I think 77, 78. But this was the actual forerunner of today's C8. This started the whole process of going to midship. A very, very lucrative machine in terms of appearance, much slipperier, much more low profile, very fluid looking. Again, it's counterculture to some of the C5 and 6 series that was out on the road at that time in the marketplace. We'll show you some of those a little bit later. But this vehicle had a very distinct history in terms of timing. The car from the ground up, we built it in 3 months, and that included the casting of it, the fabrication of it. It had to go to Paris as a working vehicle as well, so it had to start and run to be qualified for the Paris Auto Show, which it did. But the interior, we did the interior work as well. I couldn't find I worked on the interior as well as the exterior in this program, but maybe a little bit later we'll show you some of the exterior, interior work. Very dramatic digital systems. There were 8 patents that came out of this process, this car. Very unique in terms of being a record setter. Very unique in terms of temperature controls, radio systems, HVAC systems. A very innovative, new digital approach to it. It was the first car that was done by GM and a truly digital instrument cluster, and it was a movable pod. So all these things were really timely in putting the process together. So again, this is a real benchmark car. And last but not least, the most tragic thing about this whole process was this. We worked on it, got great reviews from the international press and the Paris Auto Show, came back stateside. Ed Cole was the director of design at the time, the president of the company. And that was the time of all the fuel crisis was going on, and a very, very difficult series altogether. Now it was really interesting. We came back from Europe with this thing after great reviews, and within a month's time, just a month before production, we were refining it, getting manufacturing lined up, processing lined up, and all the systems involved in the process to go midship at that late 70s. And Ed Cole canceled the program because at that time the fuel crisis came on board, and he put all the eggs and all the money into the Corvair development. So the XP887, or the midship four-rotor Corvette, was canceled for what we know now as the absolute Corvair. I mean, that was the small car technology took over, and that's what that really killed it for that time. But so you're aware of this. What was interesting about that whole that timeline when Ed Cole canceled the program, there was a lot of skunk works. We went into the basement and at the tech center and kept developing a three-pronged series for a midship engine. We never gave up on it, even in the late 70s. We kept going after it, doing prototype models and doing sketch rendering work and ideation, full-size tape drawings, just to keep the volume alive. And we were fortunate at that time. Mitchell was a big candidate for it, and also Chuck Jordan was a great candidate for it as well. So we had support from staff to keep it alive. So all I have to say, this is a very formidable, very timely machine in the history of the development of Corvette, especially when you look at the C8 today. So here we go. Now, here's some things here. This is a C7. I'll move into some things here, some very quick little thumbnail sketches, 11 by 17. Some of this work is for commission. I do a lot of commission work, so if you know, if anybody wants a commission pieces done, please let them know. I'm very interested in doing that. But here's a nice little, just a simple value study, a little bit of color background, C7 Corvette for an individual out, and I believe this was in Virginia. So the gentleman came to me and wanted to have his machine done. Happy to do so. Put that together for him. So that was a C7, and it was a silver machine, or I think it was a white pearl, pardon me, with a red trim, but very nicely done. So little thumbnail sketch there on the Corvette. Another commission piece. This is, take that back. This is the development sketch for the C4 series. Very interesting kind of a process in terms of putting it all together. Just a neat little process in terms of sketch. It's a red pencil. This is all Prismacolor pencil sketch. Just a little bit of detail work, nice front 3/4, a lot of reflection in the hood and so forth. But again, I'm moving back and forth from some of the generations from 1 through 8, so we'll walk you through this as we go here from time to time. But I just thought it was interesting to bring it all together, to see my portfolio in Corvette work. Man, this is but a tip of the iceberg. I've got portfolios full of sketches, concept sketches, quick pencil sketches. I want to pare it down on some of the things that are more significant in terms of what the process looked like and what we went through to get some of these vehicles on the road. Next one, another commission piece, C7, very elaborate paint scheme. The gentleman came to me from, I think he was from New Jersey, wanted his car done. So it was a very interesting deep blue with some yellow graphic accents and very special rims on it. He was very happy with it, put it out there for him, and boy, he was just really pleased with the fact that, man, he's got this thing in a frame. I keep in touch with these individuals. I do the commission pieces as well. So it's been really interesting to see that, the feedback coming from people who've seen his office and have viewed the work, etc. So C7 series here. There's a roadster variation on the C6. I had one of these in a yellow coupe. It was a Velocity yellow, which this one is, and this gentleman had a lot of custom work done on the piece itself with some hood graphics and some new silver and the grays and the like. But this is, again, another commission piece for a gentleman out of New York. Again, C6. Very nice in terms of beautiful machine he had. I sent the photographs, I put the piece together for him, did a couple of thumbnail sketches, set it out there for approval, and we had it done, and that was it. So that was that gentleman's situation. This little rough sketch here, back in the day when we did the C3 series, this is a variation. This is a very interesting storyline behind this sketch as well, this concept. This vehicle came out of my studio at the time, our studio at Advanced Corvette. Bill Mitchell at the time wanted to do a special Mako Shark. This is a variation on a C3 that he wanted to have customized with new wheels, different front end graphic, of course, with the little same bumper rod slot in terms of intake and the like. So very, very bold looking side pipes on it, a lot of hood mass and engine system. So this is a concept car for Bill Mitchell and done a design staff, and we built this thing, and it's a kind of a forward, I think it was after the Shark series, the Mako series, but this was his personal car. He drove back and forth sometimes to the tech center and to work. So that was that. How we coming so far, Doug? Making sense so far? Boy, it's really great to have you on board here, sir. Neat stuff. Let me turn this the other way. This little commission piece here was done. Or let me just move this the other way here. Let's just turn this around if I get this to work. I think this will work both ways here. This is a piece of work done for the Miller, Chip Miller's program out in Pennsylvania. He purchased one of the early C2s that ran at Le Mans. This is Le Mans winner that was done. I did a piece of illustration work for him. Hey, Linear. Hey, that's you're doing well. Hey, good Linear. How are you, man? Good to see you on board. Thanks for joining us here. So this is a little thumbnail sketch for that piece that was done for Chip Miller's Amidaliosis Foundation. Very, very classic car. He found it. It was in very, very poor disrepair and had a lot of work to be done on it. And I met Chip years ago, and I've been going to Corvettes at Carvalho for the last 7 years. And I do a lot of dedication work, and some of the work you'll see here today, I dedicate sketches and send it out to Chip's Foundation. And he put an auction together and raised money for the Amidaliosis group. So I'm very proud of that I have part of that whole process. So that was one of Chip Miller's that was Le Mans winner in, I think, 1957, I believe it was. This one below is the Goodwrench Series racing machine at Le Mans as well. A number 3 and number 2 car. And it's just this is a little marker rough study that you'll see a watercolor later on that I've done from that study itself. So that was a lot of fun. That's just a nice little composition piece, a little departure away from the typical approach to transportation design, but it got it done here. Let me rotate this back and we'll get at it. There we are. Goes over the way. Get this out of the way. There it is. This is, again, the commission piece for a gentleman, I think, out of Burbank, California. He had two machines. He had a C3 that was kind of a beige sand that was done for him. And also he had a new C7 done in extremely deep burgundy red. So commission piece again for this gentleman. Again, a lot of Corvette work, the portfolio, fun to do. And again, I'll repeat myself here. If you know of anybody who wants a commission piece done on their vehicle, no matter what the brand is or whatever, I do a lot of commission work, so I'd love to be a part of that process as well. So this is, again, done for a gentleman in California. Commission piece. The next one, this is some of the initial concept sketches, final rendering studies for the C7 that was introduced prior to the C8. Very gutsy looking Z series here. New front end graphics with some spoiler and spoons on it. Different ground effects system on it. New hood graphics, lighting system, spoiler, etc. Again, very, very unique, gutsy looking machine. So this was done for marketing purposes to get that Z series out on the road and fun material. So a lot of experience, a lot of practice time, but I mean, there's nothing more, let me put this in the proper perspective here. There's nothing more exciting to be able to look at something that I've had history with and to work with and see it still stay alive today and still active with it. Been very, very fortunate in terms of things being done through the Corvette ANVET here, and I'm still working with it. I'm still active in it, and really grateful for that very fact. So again, one of the final studies for the C7, before it came out on the road, etc. And let's move to the next one. There's another variation here. This is another variation theme on the four-rotor Corvette. We put this together for a marketing piece, a little rear three-quarter of the thing, and a very dramatic front view, for example. Again, this car, a lot of fond memories. I mean, I don't think I left Design Center when this whole process was being fabricated, from the first sketches to clay model to fabrication. I don't think I left the Design Center for about 3 months. It was just around the clock. Went home a little bit, came back in and worked with all the people on the staff and the manufacturing individuals, and we were sending material all over the globe, getting quotes and information on how to manufacture it and cast it and so forth, especially the interior work. Very, 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 very innovative from the instrumentation process. So it took a lot of time. This is a variation in the fourth one I showed you. That was more of a finished illustration for the Corvette Museum. This one was done for in-house as a marketing piece, again, to get the four-rotor out when it was introduced to the Paris Auto Show in the late 70s. So there's another variation on the C4. This is done for Callaway, out of New Hampshire, I believe, or Connecticut. Some aerodynamic pieces and some other crafted pieces for the actual Corvette C7 platform. We work with Reeves, who sadly just recently passed away here last month. But Callaway always had a lot of neat stuff going on. They were the first ones to do a shooting break off of this platform. Really neat looking. Slant back, almost like a wagon variation, but very dramatic stuff. So this was done for Callaway Corvettes. Again, very graphic front end, very typical split spoiler, new upper with the Dan Gurney lumps and head clearance and some graphics and new rims and new wheels, for example, for the option for those who want to purchase this thing. It's another illustration here. This is done for the Alma Didiosos Foundation. That was sent out to auction. This is a C6 in a very unusual rear three-quarter view. But again, very dramatic in terms of putting a lot of graphics. I mean, the thing about the Corvette surface work, very delicate to work with. I mean, there's a lot of really subtle, and look at the new C8. It looks very sheer, very crisp, but there's a lot of really delicate surface work. And the rear three-quarter, for example, and the hood surface, and then the rear deck and the backlight, very unique, very tailor-looking pieces. There's a lot of guttural stuff there going on. Same with this C6, as very simple as it was. This had the modified rear blister pause on it and some very simple modifications to the rear deck. But overall, just a nice, very different view to look at this stuff from the recorder. This was done for a client here, C3 again. He wanted to have an image of what his car looked like and then also what the future might look like. So it is interesting. This was done back in the late, say maybe mid-90s for this gentleman as a commission piece. But when I just back then, I knew it was coming from design staff, so I couldn't tip my hand too much. But notice there's a lot of similarity in the rear three-quarter on this concept sketch when he wanted to have something that was present and that might be coming. So it was pretty close up front, a little bit more dramatic, kept a little more of the family shape in terms of what the C3 had, and again back into the concept piece. And again, but the same, almost the same feel here. We just reversed the forward look on the intake on the rear three-quarter. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, that's the nice thing about doing commission pieces. You get to work with people who understand the brand and understand they want something unique with it. It might be present, it might be just a piece being done, but again, something, a lot of times it's a lot of things. What's coming next? So I'm coming there, Lenny or Doug, you guys still with me? So far so good, so it's making sense. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I am putting this thing on. It's been a long time to put this stuff together, but neat stuff. So far so good. Let's move along here as we go. So feel free to pipe in anywhere along the way. Any questions at all, let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer them. This is always my favorite version of the Corvette. Yeah, you know, that's a good point, Lenny, because this one really broke the mold. This is a Bill Mitchell special during Bill Mitchell's era, and a lot of the theme here was the GTO series and the I think it was GTO was the primary piece. And really a lot of high fenders, a lot of rear quarter, very very dramatic front quarter back to belt line, and a very raise in the rear three-quarter. This car came about. Learning came about as a result of that car from Ferrari set the trend for this one, and that's why it was called the Trendsetter. It was introduced. So a lot of time spent upon this piece. I think this one this body style ran a record 12 seasons before the 5 came along, and then the 6 broke the mold again to the European manufacturing side, and then the 8 is in a class all by itself. There's no question about that. So you're right, this has an interesting history, and it was always very dramatic on the road, especially in certain colors. It really screams gutty. So, but nonetheless, that's that guy. Then there's another variation that's done for a gentleman up in the Cleveland area. He had a very interesting, almost like a polished dark green. Where can I buy the book? The book might be coming, Doug. I'm not sure how we do that yet, but it might be coming. I've put this portfolio together. I mean, this is honestly, I'm a bit of an embarrassment in a way because there's so much stuff. I'm going through my portfolios. This is but a tip of the iceberg. I've got about 4 portfolios, just strictly Corvette work, all the way from when I first started at design staff years ago. Kept all my work, and they were able to ship some of the new stuff to me. I am still pretty active with the gang up there, so everything that comes through, sometimes there's a waiting period for it to be shipped back to me. But I keep getting it, and I've just been so fortunate. I don't know, maybe that's a good idea, Doug. I might put together a book. I'm not sure. But this gentleman has a very unique looking C3. It's almost like a dark green pearl. When it flopped, it turned almost to the silver. It's strange, almost to the silver side, where you see a lot of cloud reflection back in the forms itself. But he was very pleased with it. We did that piece for him just last year. No, pardon me, a year and a half ago. He approached me and said, I saw your work. I'd love to have you do a piece of my Corvette. Would you be interested? Absolutely. Always love to do that for people. It's just kind of an honor to know that people look at your work and say, gee, I'd like to have a piece of that work in my office. That's humbling. To me, it's very humbling. I think it's just something you put all your heart and soul into, because these people have taken the time to contact you to get a piece of work done. And I always put my best foot forward, especially when it's called a Corvette. And I know the history of it. I've been there and I've lived it. So it's a lot of fun. So let's move along here. The commission piece that was done. This is another classic piece. I mean, this guy was a real monster of a machine. This again is the C2 series. Interesting piece. Bill Mitchell had this piece consigned. He took an actual Corvette splitback. We chopped the top off this thing, and I remember going through the process in the fabrication area when this car was introduced. We did a group of sketches. Bill liked the idea of a roadster feel with a wraparound glass on it, very strong solid pipes, very simple trim systems and new tires, etc. But this piece was very dramatic, and a lot of the rave reviews in this piece come together. So I did this piece for Corvette magazine some time ago, and it was published, and I almost thought that was a neat view too. Very dramatic with these very strong fender blisters. Again, a lot of Ferrari influence in this stuff, and Mitchell and Jordan both terrific Ferrari enthusiasts. A lot of borrowing back and forth, just minor changes here and there to give it that international flavor. But this is a very interesting prototype, one of a kind, that was built for Bill Mitchell, and that was one of his personal cars. He didn't do a coupe version of it. Seeing this version always reminded me of like the Mach 5 Speed Racer, especially. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely correct. A lot of variation there, a lot of relationship between that piece you're referring to. So there it is. Now we get back to this is a variation that I showed you earlier. This is that Chip Miller C2 Le Mans winner in its category. Very, very famous automobile, and I think Chip was still alive, and his brother Bill Miller, speaking to him out at Carlisle when I go there every year to present some of the work I do for auction. This car was really, it took a long time to find it, but when they found it, they repaired it and brought it all back up to speed. It makes the show circuit now. I've been very fortunate to work on this as an illustration piece for amyloidosis. I did another piece for an auction event in Hershey, Pennsylvania that featured this guy at speed at Le Mans. So it was a lot of fun, but this is a very simple, very, very graphic illustration of a very, very famous C2 Le Mans winning Corvette. 1957, I believe. Oh, no, I take that back. 1960, early 60s, I believe. So there we are. That's another piece. Now, this interesting little piece here. It's a watercolor study of the Goodwrench Corvette. Again, the C6. Very interesting C5 party. Watercolor study. Very quick, loose little study here about this thing at speed. This was sent out to, this is done. It's not a commission piece. This was done for Chip Miller's Amyloidosis Foundation, where they put a lot of auction work out there. I guess I send work out there about maybe a dozen every year. Sometimes I attend, and last year I could not attend. I don't know if I'm going this year or not, but when I go out there and attend, I'm just amazed at how much money these things raise from the auction point of view. They put it out there, and all the funding goes to his foundation. And Chip Miller, a tremendous car guy over the years, contracted a very serious illness, amyloidosis, that just took his life at a very early age. So his son Lance, whom I work with, put together this foundation, the Amyloidosis Foundation, and that's all my work goes to that for that cause, and I'm really proud to be a part of that process. So that's a watercolor study, real quick, real loose, a lot of sketch work in there, but all handcrafted material. But that's a watercolor study of that machine. And there's another view of it, for example, that the Rolex Special. There they are in tandem coming around the big curve there at Le Mans. And again, another watercolor study to kind of put it all together. There she is. And again, we'll still do a lot of marker work. This is more of a marker study. This is a genuine watercolor study here. That's all watercolor. This one is more of a combination of a marker pastel, and a lot of ballpoint pen work. So it changes from time to time. Again, this is another piece that was sent out to the Corvettes of Carlisle for auction purposes for the foundation we're supporting. So there we are. Now we'll move into some more contemporary stuff here. This is an interesting sketch. Let me move this down a little bit, straighten up a little bit. This is one of the early concept sketches years back after the four-rotor was done. We went right back in the studios and started looking at some concept sketches for what the next generation of Corvette might be. This was one of the early four-runner sketches of the C8 or the mid-engine program. We were looking at trying to keep the same flavor of the body graphics, the intake on the side, a little bit of a different intake series and front-end graphic, new lighting, etc. Very, very high belt line, low upper. This was, again, just a real quick, loose pencil sketch to put this guy together, just put some graphics down and see what it might look like here. So that's a concept sketch there for that purpose. Move along here for just a moment. And this is, again, it's another commission piece. Oops, sorry about that. Once that was done, then we went from that study to this. Someone working. This is a little more recent, but it wasn't as dramatic as some of the ones that are on the road today. But this is the very early prototype sketch for the C8. No, it's really bulky. A lot of high belt, a lot of deep intake on the rocker side. Very low profile, very quick upper on it, and a very abrupt tail section, almost like a bobtail on this thing. So this was one of the early sketches, C8. Much more, I think, a lot of gutsiness in it. It had a lot of girth to it, a lot of mass. So I think the 8 has a lot more stealthiness to it. You'll see it in a few moments here, what that might look like as we move along here. Early sketch again, development on the C8. Again, here's another. This is the C8 as we know it today. This is done for again, purposes for just sketch rendering, final studies, and so forth with the C8. But look, let me get that into place here. Hopefully that's all right. There she is, about right. Oop, gonna miss a little bit. There it is, right there. Just stick that thing in. This is done very quickly. Again, a marker pastel piece, all freehand work. A nice little indication of things dealing with. Again, the C8, once it was all said and done, notice a huge change back here in the rear quarter area where the intake to the main engine, the rear engine bay was established. A lot guttier, a lot more, very dramatic on the road. I think this thing has a presence that is really unique to see on the road, and you can't miss it. And the build system is extremely very, very compatible with a lot of European, for example, manufacturers like Ferrari, Maserati, and Porsche. Very, very compatible build system. So it's been very successful, and it's nice to see it out there on the road. There's another variation. This goes back to the C8, another variation on theme here. This is just a concept study done for some final graphics of the actual machine itself. Very, very bright, again, Velocity Yellow series with the high contrast graphics. And again, notice how it really kind of accentuates that whole rear quarter area. Very powerful looking piece in terms of graphic stance and design systems here. So, and there we are. And this one's unfortunately, this guy was done. Very interesting series. This is the C8R racing series. Just found out that I think you all are aware as well that they canceled the racing program. I think this is the last year they're going to go into the racing series. This is a very gutty looking machine. I thought it was a lot. This is a pencil sketch. There's a little bit of marker or pastel in the background there. It's got a little bit of area to it, but very quick little graphic study on the C8R, and very, very dramatic machine. So a lot of fun with that one as well. So again, sad to see it go by the wayside because it was very successful in the racing circuit, and in its class was very, very very tough competitor. So let me move along here. This is a separate piece. This is some earlier development sketches on the C8. Very, very unique in terms of what it might begin to look like. Notice a very much more accentuated rear three-quarter intake area, very strong front-end graphics, picking up a little bit of the Corvette meshwork in the front-end graphics. Lamps are a little close, getting a little closer to the final production piece here. And the way we went with that, that's kind of neat. So that was not a little, again, this is a pencil sketch, very quick pencil sketch with Prismacolor and a little bit of pastel background to give a bit of presence to it as we go through it here. Now, let's see what we've got next. This is interesting. I think we turn the page here. This is kind of a cool setup here. Next go around here. These are some studies done on Canson paper of what an SUV Corvette might look like. These are real quick little sketches, white pencil on indigo blue, on what, for example, what would a C8 look like in terms of an SUV platform? What appearance would it have? A lot of favor here. I don't know if they're going to build something like this, but I think there's a lot of in-house conversation about that might be a part of the process in time to come. Not quite sure how to handle that yet, but that would be it. That was one of the studies done. Or again, pardon me, I gotta get this guy up. Here it is. We're a platform and SUV. And again, notice the same very strong nacelles, very long lighting system. So it very stretches out the lighting and so forth in this machine. It's very strong, but it misses that rear intake piece because it can be kind of tough to do a midship engine thing, I think, with an SUV. But they're looking at that could be there's a lot of dome back here in the rear wheels where it blisters out, and that provides a lot of real muscle back there. But that could fit if you bring that intake series a little bit further forward, maybe shrink the body form and maybe raise the belt line a little bit. That might function nicely. So that was the first pass at it. There's another this is a shooting brake study. Early on, we did some studies, for example, of what it might look like as a shooting brake for a wagon. Again, notice again, a very strong format at that intake area here. And very much the front end graphics is pretty clean. The lighting system's a lot closer. But again, that whole wagon series, to me, would be really dramatic because I think it could really be almost like oh my goodness, the Lamborghini Miura and the Spada years ago. Spada did a backlight SUV, not SUV. The Spada did a very interesting shooting brake series. It was very, very low profile, extremely wide. I remember seeing that in Europe when I was traveling through Switzerland, and the lady pulled up in this thing. It was an absolute stunner, beautiful machine. Spada, rare to see today, but that was actually a shooting brake. So that whole theme came back into the Corvette series. What if we did a wagon variation or a shooting brake series up with the platform itself? That's a possibility. So that was the reason this was done. Another variation here. There's one in the shooting brake. Now this again, little Corvette study here on Canson. This is the actual C8 itself. Just a very simple Canson sketch of what this I think a Corvette wagon would do well, especially with outlooks. Yeah, I do too. I agree with you, Lydia. I think it'd be very, very interesting. That wagon, there's something about even the 8 proportion. If you look at the proportions on the 8 as a coupe, that upper drops back, but this very strong rear quarter, and also with a lot of glass back there. If this hull was cantilever glass or wraparound glass, could be a very dramatic looking piece. So hope against hope that might come to pass someday as a new variation on Corvette. Could be a lot of fun, I think. And you're right. If it looks very powerful like this guy did when we started doing these series, I think a lot of success would come out of that without any doubt at all. So I'm going to go back here. Another variation is just a Corvette, simple line drawing study, as C8 as it is today. A little bit, we did this family of forms just to look at maybe variations on theme of color accents in certain areas, maybe some little rear mirror treatment, some front end graphic intake pieces, where the cowling is, etc., for intake, very strong graphics, and so we can probably go further with it, but I think the machine, the form itself doesn't need an awful lot of cosmetics. It's just so powerful to look at, but some color accents are unique. And I think, from my point of view, I think this Z series with that little poke coming off the rear end, a little black insert piece, I don't think that was necessary. I really prefer the body color piece. I've seen it with the black escutcheon around the area here, for example. I've seen it in both the black escutcheon around this, the intake piece itself. And if you've got a body color, if it's black or a dark charcoal, that works. But if it's a non-color, like a bright white or a refrigerator white or a yellow, or even some of the blues, it's a bit distracting. I think just the purity of that intake should be held as is. It'd be a lot of fun to deal with there. So anyhow, I think you're right. We need a petition to get this thing into a wagon form shooting brake. It'd be very cool. Typical Corvette study again, enough said. Final piece, just looking at the little graphic appointments along the way. How do we facelift it? What kind of little parts and pieces could we add to it to give it a little bit more novel? So let's go back into here. And last but not least, now we're going to move in some area here. This was done recently here. Here's some really quick little thumbnail sketches, ballpoint pen and marker on what the next generation of maybe the 12 series might look like if the platform changes in time to come. Do we want to go more aggressive, bring back some of the early gill systems that the 6s and 7s and 8s had, and the splitbacks? Again, very strong, bold, but much crisper. Very strong belt line through here, very high upper in terms of taking the daylight open and really kicking it uphill and making it a little more aggressive out of that area. Again, another variation. It's almost like a semi-shooting brake where we bring the rear upper back and just really accentuate this whole quarter area. I'm getting a little more elaborate with it. And you can looking at body color graphics as well. Always very interesting to see in terms of how to break up the paint schemes without making it look too gaudy or overdone. So that was one study done with it there, putting it all together. And let's go to phase 2. This is a real quick pencil montage of maybe some variations on some front-end graphic and induction changes, drawing air, different variation, but very close for theme up front, but again, much stronger, bolder, longer streamline coming into that rear quarter area as to what might take place in time to come for future reference for Corvette. These are all imaginative, what-if speculation sketches, but nonetheless very quick to do and very exploratory work in terms of what might be taking place after the 8 is advented there. What kind of facelifts are going to be going on to it? Do we going to go lower? Do we want to open up this thing up and really stretch that rear quarter hip out there and make it much more prominent, or keep it pretty confined like the current machine has in this case here, very confined area. But what's missing here, I think what was unique about this approach, it doesn't have that little kicker on the rear wheel. This goes straight back into the rear end. So it's a lot more girth back there and more body to it. So it'd be kind of fun to deal with. Yeah, so that's that guy. And that goes there. Not that, just we'll wrap it up here as we kind of close it up here today with this little portfolio piece. Some interesting things here. These were done some time ago. These are really quick, again, really fast watercolor strikes that were done early on from the point of view of what these next generation. This is before the whole aura or push to go fully mid-engine came about. There were some things, this was a mid-engine variation, this was a hip that came in, still, but it didn't look like it had the kind of guts to it. So these are really fast, maybe 1-hour watercolor studies in elevation that I put together to just study the fact that maybe it's a little blunter front end. Again, that same famous Corvette insert piece up front in the front quarter. A very sedate looking set of circumstances there. Then we go back into here. There's the first one we did. I'll line these up. I think we got them one on top. Yeah. Then we went to that same watercolor pass here So just pull this over so you can see that a little bit here. Sneaks in, and then this guy this is more of a shooting brake. Again, taking that whole upper rearward and giving it much more of a rear three-quarter look. Wagon, again, shooting brake wagon approach. But again, still very sedate in terms of body side. Notice that this was a big quarter hip on the thing. The intake was not there yet. These again are very early sketches. Let's go back and look at that guy. And again, this goes back to almost like a retro piece, where it wasn't really a midship. But, do we go back and look at a wraparound windscreen, for example, out of the 50s? And let me straighten that guy up just a little bit. These are really, again, very fast, quick, explosive watercolor studies that were done just to look at variations on theme here down the line. Let me move this over so we kind of see where you're at. There it is. How's that? Better? Again, variation on theme here. I'm going back to the Corvette, back to the glory days of the early 50s. Some of the insert pieces with that wraparound windscreen, much more aircraft looking. But again, didn't have the rear three-quarter or dramatic Corvette piece that we're looking for here in terms of what was coming down the line here into the 8 series. And the last one we did was much more adventuresome. We almost took a page out of Ferrari's LaFerrari piece, where I got really very strong, bold sections in terms of drop-offs, a lot of mid-cabin push into the in the midsection area, mid-cabin, and back into a real strong rear quarter. Didn't really favor this one. It just it did not look like it was part of the heritage. But nonetheless, you explore this stuff to see what the possibilities might be. But again, what I love about this whole process as well, and I think it's worth pointing out at this stage of the game. Notice I go from marker to watercolor to CanSon and back to watercolor. I'm changing all the time just to change the system, the medium of working with it. This really neat stuff. I've always been a real fan of not falling in love with any one technique. I change all the time as best I can, from pencil to marker to watercolor to CanSon. I mean, it just keeps you fresh and active. And it also gives you new approaches in terms of execution from a creative point of view as well. So it's very helpful to go through all that. And then last but not least, I want to wrap it up here with some of the things we've done. These are some very early CanSon sketches. Just white pencil on CanSon of what the actual 8 began to look like. I mean, that's really evil looking in terms of the stance. Notice much more sculptural hood, very long intake areas here, very simple rear quarter hip, very strong statement in terms of putting it all together. CanSon sketch from the final sketches of the C8 itself on the family. Let me get down the way here. Then the second one is the rear three-quarter study. Put that thing, do this. Let's get this up on there. I think that'll work like that. Is there we go, and down below its companion here to the rear three-quarters. So I get that that'll work there, and then this guy to come here just a bit more. Oop, let's get both on the same screen. There it is, and hopefully that'll work. There they are. There's a front. Actually, when it all came together, we're missing some of these dihedrals in the rear quarter area, but this could be coming in the future, where it's a much more dramatic looking racing machine. And again, notice very simple intake piece here, a little bit of a modification, but the front end graphics is pretty well set. And then the rear graphics, aside from the wraparound of the lights, and then these intakes and this very strong dihedral or vectors down below for ground effects, part of the process to come as well. So that concludes the portfolio work of Corvette stuff. That I just thought it'd be kind of fun to put that together today and switch some gears and show you the process of when it all started in 1957 with Zora Arkus Dunthov's C57 type that went out, and that became the father or the foundation of what we know of Corvette today. So any comments, Lenny or Doug, if you're still with me? What do you think overall? Making sense? I hope I clarified some things for you here today. Let's wait for some response here. But in the meantime, I think it's just really nice to be able to go back and forth with some of the portfolio. As I said too, this batch of work doesn't even represent how much depth there is and how much work I've done on the Corvette, especially over the years. And I think the most exciting part for me is not only to be a part of the process and the design system at design staff, but also, oh, hey, Doug, so much see you. Thanks, I am here. Also working at the same time, so I'm sorry. No problem at all. I'm glad you're on board still. But let me just wrap up by saying this, too. I think over the years, I think I would be remiss in not saying this. What a privilege it has been to be involved in the American's icon from a design point of view when I first started design staff. I would have never told you, known you, or told you that I would go into Advanced Corvette and become a part of the major player for some of the groundbreaking machines that we did. For example, the four-rotor Corvette back in the late 70s, and then a C8, and some of the C6 work with cheap design with Jerry Palmer on. Those are groundbreaking machines, and I'm very grateful for the fact that I've had that experience. Just information on all came together, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But the most important part of that whole experience at design staff was after I left and started my own company here in Columbus. A lot of individuals approached me for commission work. Also, I got to meet the people at Corvettes of Carlisle. Have been part of their process for the last 6 years. I make it a point to send work out every year to get that Amyloidosis Foundation put together. So all those things put together, I mean, I'm very, very profoundly grateful for the experiences I've had. And hopefully it's not over yet. We're still doing some work with the gang up there and still working with some of the foundation pieces and some conceptual work, and just fun for my own self interest. Just some sketches here in the studio for just advanced Corvette, what if? A lot of fun. So I'm grateful for the fact that all that's come to my way. And I'm grateful for the fact that you guys tuned in today. I hope it's been it's information. It's no problem at all, linear. I mean, I've been very fortunate to see it firsthand. I thought it'd be kind of fun to pull out the process and not just see from the very beginning how it all started with Zora and where we are today with the C8. Long haul. By the way, interesting storyline too. After the four-rotor Corvette was canceled, it took 30 years of insistence and design staff down the Skunk Works to keep working at it, and finally it came to pass in the C8. So it's great to see, phenomenal to see on the road. And then also, Doug, if you're still there, really looking forward to carrying on with some of the slot car work, and great feedback on that. That's a lot of fun program, Doug. So I'll be sending some things to you. Maybe not today. I've got some things to take care of at the end of the day here, but I'll start working on some additional material. And feel free to send me information you need to, Doug, to get it taken care of here. So I just want to, again, take a moment to thank you and for Linear and Doug for tuning in. And those of you who might be watching later on, thank you so much for being a loyalist and joining in the program here. I think I might be a quick announcement here in the next week or two. I might be switching courses here to go from Twitch into YouTube directly. We'll see. I mean, I love Twitch. I'm not unhappy at all with the process here, what we're going through. But I think we're going to go more direct and get some more things done on YouTube. And I'll be going through some lesson plan work, and I've got some other things planned for the next few streams to work with. So stay tuned, and I hope you have as much fun as I have here today putting this whole process together. And I will tune up. Please visit my website at Jim at my email address. Drop me a note if there's something I can work with you on, for example, at Jim at drcontrast.com. That's my email address. Feel free to drop me a note about things you'd like to see or things to work on. Be happy to help you there if I can. And also visit my website, drcontrast.com, where I've got a drawing program, a store set up with some materials, posters and t-shirts and the like. And we'll be adding that to it as well as we go down the line here. So all that to say, gang, I so much appreciate you taking the time here today, going through the archives. And next week, maybe we'll switch gears and go back to some F1 stuff with Doug. I'm not sure, or else back into some more. I'd love to be able to start doing some really good teaching systems, maybe a quick 5 or 10 minute processing on basic perspective, basic light source, volumetrics. I've got a lot of feedback on the chat channel about getting some more information on just basic drawing skills. So I'm going to go back and do some very fundamental things. So we'll let that take its natural course in the next few weeks here. But again, thank you so much for taking time here today, gang. And if I would said this in closing, and I mean it very sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank you enough. And never forget to dare to be great. Dare to be great, because you are. Thanks very much, gang. Have a great day, and we'll see you next Wednesday. You as well, gang. Have a great day. Thanks, Linear. Good to have you on board. And long time no speak, but so happy you're with us. Take care, gang. And again, never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. All the best, gang. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you. Bye-bye.